What if I told you that every single thing you've ever experienced, every choice you've ever made, every triumph and every failure in human history was part of an elaborate experiment, not conducted by scientists in lab coats, but by something far more advanced, far more alien than we could ever imagine? Picture this. You wake up tomorrow morning and scattered across every major city on Earth are identical crystalline structures, each one pulsing with an otherworldly light. As you approach one, a voice speaks directly into your mind, not through your ears, but somehow imprinted directly onto your consciousness. And it says this: the test is complete. You have passed the first phase. The first phase of what? And who's running this cosmic examination? Before you dismiss this as science fiction, consider this unsettling fact. In the past 50 years, we've discovered over 5,000 exoplanets, and yet despite decades of searching, we haven't found a single trace of intelligent life anywhere in the universe. Not one radio signal, not one artificial structure, not even a speck of space debris that screams made by aliens. This is what scientists call the Fermi Paradox, and it's one of the most disturbing mysteries in all of science. But what if the silence isn't because we're alone? What if it's because we're being watched, evaluated, tested in ways we can't even comprehend? What if Earth isn't just a random rock spinning through space, but a carefully constructed laboratory designed to see if a species can evolve beyond its primitive instincts? I'm about to take you down a rabbit hole that will fundamentally change how you see our planet, our species, and our place in the cosmos. We're going to explore evidence that suggests Earth might be the ultimate cosmic test for intelligent life, and the results of that test could determine whether humanity gets to join a galactic community or remains forever isolated on our tiny blue marble. But first, let me blow your mind with something that should terrify every single person on this planet. In 1961, astronomer Frank Drake created an equation to estimate how many communicating alien civilizations might exist in our galaxy. When you plug in even the most conservative numbers, the results suggest there should be thousands, maybe millions of intelligent species out there. The math is so compelling that Carl Sagan once said the absence of aliens would be more surprising than their presence. So where is everybody? This question has haunted scientists for decades, but recently a new theory has emerged that's so elegant, so logical, and so deeply unsettling that it's gaining serious traction in academic circles. It's called the zoo hypothesis, and it suggests that advanced alien civilizations are deliberately avoiding contact with us, not because they're hostile, but because they're studying us. Think of it like a nature preserve. When researchers study animals in their natural habitat, they go to extraordinary lengths to avoid interfering with the subject's behavior. They use hidden cameras, maintain strict distance, and create elaborate blinds to observe without being observed. The animals have no idea they're being watched, documented, and analyzed. Now scale that up to a cosmic level. What if Earth is essentially a cosmic nature preserve, and we're the animals being studied? What if every major event in human history, every technological breakthrough, every social revolution, has been carefully observed and documented by intelligences so advanced that we might as well be chimpanzees trying to understand quantum physics? But here's where it gets really interesting and really terrifying. What if it's not just passive observation? What if it's an active test? Consider the absolutely bizarre series of coincidences that had to align perfectly for intelligent life to emerge on Earth. Our planet sits in what astronomers call the Goldilocks zone. Not too hot, not too cold, but just right for liquid water. We have a moon that's exactly the right size to stabilize our planet's rotation and create tides that may have been crucial for life's development. We have a magnetic field that protects us from deadly cosmic radiation. We have plate tectonics that regulate our climate through carbon cycling. Any one of these factors being slightly different would have made Earth completely uninhabitable. The odds of all of them occurring naturally are so astronomically small that some scientists have suggested it's statistically impossible. unless it wasn't natural at all. What if an advanced alien civilization, millions or billions of years ahead of us, deliberately engineered these conditions? What if they seeded Earth with the exact parameters needed for intelligent life to evolve, then sat back to watch what would happen? This isn't as far-fetched as it sounds. We're already on the verge of this kind of technology ourselves. Scientists are seriously discussing terraforming Mars, creating artificial magnetic fields, and even moving asteroids to alter planetary conditions. If we can conceive of doing this with our primitive 21st century technology, imagine what a civilization with a million-year head start could accomplish. But why would they go to all this trouble? What would be the point of creating an entire planet just to watch primitive life forms struggle toward intelligence? The answer might lie in one of the greatest challenges facing any sufficiently advanced civilization: the Great Filter. The Great Filter is a hypothetical evolutionary bottleneck that prevents most life from becoming spacefaring and joining the galactic community. It could be the jump from simple to complex cells, the development of intelligence, the invention of technology, or something even more challenging that we haven't encountered yet. Most species that attempt to cross this filter fail catastrophically. They might destroy themselves through warfare, exhaust their planet's resources, or succumb to any number of extinction-level events. The few that make it through become part of a cosmic club, a galactic federation of truly advanced civilizations. But here's the key insight. If you're running this cosmic club, you'd want to know which species are likely to make it through the filter before you make contact. You wouldn't want to accidentally interfere with a species that might naturally develop the wisdom and technology to join you. And you definitely wouldn't want to make contact with a species that's destined to destroy itself and potentially take you down with them. So you'd create a test. A planetary-scale examination that allows a species to demonstrate whether they can evolve beyond their primitive instincts and become worthy members of galactic civilization. And that test might be exactly what we're living through right now. Think about the challenges humanity is currently facing: climate change, nuclear weapons, artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, social inequality, resource depletion. Each of these represents a potential extinction event, a way our species could fail the test and eliminate itself from the cosmic equation. But they also represent opportunities. If we can solve climate change, we demonstrate that we can think beyond short-term interests and work together for long-term survival. If we can control nuclear weapons, we show that we're not inherently self-destructive. If we can manage artificial intelligence responsibly, we prove we're wise enough to handle godlike technologies. Every major crisis we face might be a deliberate challenge, carefully calibrated to push us toward either transcendence or extinction. This would explain so much about our current situation. Why do all our global problems seem to be reaching critical mass at the same time? Why does it feel like we're living through a series of increasingly difficult tests? Why does every solution require unprecedented levels of global cooperation and wisdom? Because we are being tested. And the results of that test will determine whether we get to join the cosmic community or remain forever quarantined on Earth, left to either solve our problems or destroy ourselves in isolation. But if this is true, if Earth really is a cosmic testing ground, then we need to ask the most important question of all: are we passing or failing? The evidence is mixed, and that should terrify you. On one hand, we've made incredible progress in the past century. We've eliminated diseases, connected the globe through technology, begun to explore space, and started to understand our impact on the planet. We've shown flashes of the kind of wisdom and cooperation that might impress cosmic observers. On the other hand, we're still struggling with the same primitive instincts that have plagued our species for millennia. We're still tribal, still violent, still short-sighted. We're still more likely to compete than cooperate, still more focused on immediate gratification than long-term survival. And time might be running out. Consider this chilling possibility. What if the cosmic test isn't just about surviving our current challenges, but about proving we can recognize the test itself? Because here's what should keep you awake at night. If advanced aliens are sophisticated enough to engineer an entire planet and monitor our development for millions of years, they're definitely smart enough to hide the evidence of their involvement. Every anomaly we discover, every inexplicable coincidence in Earth's history, could be carefully calculated to remain just ambiguous enough that we can explain it away as natural phenomena. But what if some of us aren't supposed to explain it away? What if recognizing the test is part of the test? Let me show you something that will make your skin crawl. Throughout human history, there have been inexplicable leaps in our technological and intellectual development. The sudden emergence of agriculture in multiple locations around the globe at roughly the same time. The mysterious appearance of advanced mathematical concepts in ancient civilizations that had no contact with each other. The Renaissance, the Scientific Revolution, the Industrial Revolution, the Digital Age, each representing quantum jumps in human capability that seem to come out of nowhere. Traditional historians explain these as natural progressions, inevitable results of accumulated knowledge and favorable circumstances. But look at the timing, look at the patterns. These breakthroughs consistently occur just when our species reaches critical junctures, moments when we desperately need new capabilities to survive the challenges we're facing. It's almost as if someone is providing hints. Not direct intervention, mind you, that would invalidate the test. But subtle nudges, gentle pushes in the right direction, carefully timed revelations that help us advance just enough to face the next challenge. Like a teacher who doesn't give you the answer but provides just enough guidance to help you figure it out yourself. And now we're approaching what might be the final exam. The convergence of artificial intelligence, climate change, and potential nuclear conflict isn't random. It's the ultimate test of whether a species can transcend its biological programming and make decisions based on logic, cooperation, and long-term thinking rather than fear, competition, and immediate gratification. Think about it. Artificial intelligence represents our ability to create something potentially greater than ourselves. Climate change tests whether we can prioritize species survival over individual comfort. Nuclear weapons determine if we're mature enough to possess the power of gods without destroying ourselves. But here's the truly disturbing part. We might not be the first species to take this test. What if Mars wasn't always the barren wasteland we see today? What if Venus wasn't always a hellish furnace? Recent discoveries have revealed that both planets might have once harbored conditions suitable for life. Mars shows evidence of ancient rivers, lakes, and possibly even oceans. Venus might have had a temperate climate for billions of years before a runaway greenhouse effect turned it into an inferno. What if these weren't natural disasters? What if they were the remnants of cosmic tests that other species failed? Imagine a Martian civilization that couldn't solve their climate crisis and watched their atmosphere slowly bleed away into space. Picture a Venusian species that triggered an irreversible greenhouse effect and cooked themselves out of existence. These wouldn't be random cosmic accidents, but predictable outcomes for species that failed to demonstrate the wisdom necessary for galactic citizenship. Earth might be attempt number 3 in our solar system alone. This theory gains even more credibility when you consider the absolutely bizarre nature of human consciousness itself. We're the only species on Earth that actively contemplates our own existence, questions our purpose, and desperately seeks meaning in the universe. Every other form of life is content to simply survive and reproduce, but we're driven by something deeper, something that compels us to reach beyond our biological limitations. Why are we so different? Why do we alone possess this restless curiosity, this burning need to understand not just how the world works, but why it exists at all? Unless that curiosity was deliberately engineered into us, unless the very thing that makes us human was designed to help us recognize and pass the cosmic test. But if that's true, then we're running out of time to prove we deserve that gift. The signs are everywhere. The frequency and intensity of global crises are accelerating. Climate tipping points are approaching faster than predicted. Artificial intelligence development is advancing at an exponential rate. Geopolitical tensions are reaching breaking points. It's as if the difficulty level is being systematically increased, pushing us toward a moment of truth where we either evolve or perish. And here's the most terrifying possibility of all. What if the test isn't just about survival but about transformation? What if passing the cosmic exam requires us to become something fundamentally different than what we are now? Not just technologically advanced, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually evolved beyond our current limitations. What if the goal isn't just to survive as humans, but to transcend humanity altogether? This might explain why the challenges we face seem designed to force cooperation on a global scale. Climate change can't be solved by any one nation. Artificial intelligence threatens everyone equally. Nuclear war would devastate all of humanity. These aren't problems that can be addressed through traditional competitive strategies. They require a level of unity and shared purpose that our species has never achieved. Maybe that's the point. Maybe the test is specifically designed to force us to overcome our tribal instincts and think as a single, unified species. Maybe passing the exam means evolving beyond nationalism, racism, and all the other divisions that have plagued us throughout history. But evolution is never guaranteed. For every species that successfully adapts to new challenges, countless others go extinct. The fossil record is littered with creatures that couldn't make the transition when their environment changed. And we might be facing the ultimate environmental change, a shift from isolated planetary existence to cosmic citizenship. The question isn't whether we're capable of passing this test. The question is whether we'll recognize what's being asked of us before it's too late. Because, if I'm right, if Earth really is a cosmic examination, then every decision we make in the next few decades could determine the fate of our entire species. Every choice between cooperation and competition, between wisdom and fear, between long-term thinking and short-term gratification, is being carefully evaluated by intelligences beyond our comprehension, and they're keeping score. The implications of this cosmic scorecard become even more chilling when you examine the patterns hidden in plain sight throughout human history. Because if we're really being tested, then the examiners have been remarkably consistent in their methodology. Every major civilization that has ever existed has faced the same fundamental challenge. How do you maintain growth and prosperity without destroying the very foundations that made that growth possible? The Mayans had advanced mathematics and astronomy, but couldn't prevent deforestation from collapsing their agricultural system. The Romans built an empire spanning continents, but couldn't solve the internal corruption and resource depletion that rotted them from within. The Easter Island civilization created those haunting stone statues, but cut down every single tree on their island, sealing their own fate. Notice a pattern? Each civilization was given the tools for greatness, allowed to flourish and develop, but ultimately faced a test of their wisdom and foresight, and each one failed in remarkably similar ways. But here's what should make your blood run cold. We're displaying the exact same behaviors that doomed every previous attempt. We're consuming resources faster than the planet can replenish them. We're prioritizing short-term economic gains over long-term environmental stability. We're allowing inequality to reach levels that historically trigger social collapse. We're developing technologies so powerful they could either solve all our problems or end our existence, and we're rushing ahead without the wisdom to tell the difference. It's almost as if we're following a script, playing out the same tragic drama that has been performed countless times before on countless worlds throughout the galaxy. But wait, it gets worse. What if the cosmic test isn't just about avoiding the mistakes of previous civilizations? What if it's specifically designed to present us with challenges that become exponentially more difficult to solve the longer we wait? Climate change is the perfect example. 50 years ago, transitioning to clean energy would have been relatively simple and inexpensive. 20 years ago, it would have required significant effort, but remained entirely achievable. Today, We're looking at massive technological and social transformations that will cost trillions and require unprecedented global cooperation. And with each passing year, the window for a manageable solution grows smaller. This isn't an accident. This is the elegant design of a test that rewards early wisdom and punishes procrastination. The cosmic examiners aren't interested in species that can only solve problems when forced to the brink of extinction. They want to see if we're smart enough to recognize threats while we still have comfortable margins for error. And we're failing that test spectacularly. Consider artificial intelligence. We've known for decades that AI could pose existential risks to humanity. Researchers have been warning about alignment problems, control issues, and the potential for recursive self-improvement to create superintelligence that we can't control or understand. Yet we're racing ahead with development driven by competition and profit motives, treating the most important technological development in human history like it's just another startup opportunity. This is exactly the kind of behavior that cosmic observers would be watching for, not our technical capabilities, but our judgment. Not whether we can create powerful technologies, but whether we're wise enough to develop them responsibly. The test might not be, can you build AI? But rather, will you build it safely? And right now, we're demonstrating the same reckless abandon that has characterized our species throughout history. We're once again prioritizing speed over safety, competition over cooperation, individual advantage over collective survival. But here's where the cosmic test theory takes a truly sinister turn. What if some of the challenges we're facing aren't naturally occurring at all? What if they're deliberately engineered stress tests designed to push our species to its breaking point? Think about the timing. Why are all our major existential threats converging at the exact moment when we have the technological capability to address them, but lack the social and political structures to coordinate an effective response? Why is climate change accelerating just as we develop renewable energy? Why is artificial intelligence advancing just as we begin to understand its risks? Why are nuclear weapons proliferating just as global tensions reach new heights? The synchronicity is suspicious. It's almost as if someone is carefully calibrating the difficulty level to maintain maximum pressure without quite triggering complete collapse. Like a video game that adjusts the challenge to keep you engaged but not frustrated enough to quit. Except in this game, losing means extinction. This brings us to perhaps the most disturbing possibility of all. What if the test has multiple phases, and we don't even know which phase we're in? Phase 1 might have been the development of civilization itself, learning to cooperate in large groups, developing agriculture, creating cities, building the foundations of complex society. Humanity passed this phase with flying colors. We went from scattered hunter-gatherer tribes to a globally connected civilization in just a few thousand years. Phase 2 could be the development of advanced technology without self-destruction, nuclear weapons, genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, space travel. We're currently in the middle of this phase, and the results are still uncertain. We've demonstrated remarkable ingenuity, but we've also shown a disturbing tendency to create problems faster than we can solve them. But what if there's a phase 3 that we haven't even imagined yet? What if successfully managing our current challenges only qualifies us for an even more difficult test? Consider this possibility. What if the cosmic examiners aren't just evaluating our ability to survive, but our potential to become examiners ourselves? What if the ultimate goal isn't just to join galactic civilization, but to eventually take responsibility for testing and evaluating other emerging species? This would make perfect sense from a cosmic perspective. Advanced civilizations would need a way to identify and develop other species capable of bearing the enormous responsibility of shepherding younger races through their own evolutionary challenges. They would need beings who have demonstrated not just intelligence and technological capability, but wisdom, compassion, and the kind of long-term thinking that comes from successfully navigating existential threats. In other words, they would need species that have proven they can pass the test before they're allowed to administer it to others. This reframes everything. We're not just fighting for our own survival, we're auditioning for a role as cosmic gardeners, potential shepherds of future intelligent species. The stakes aren't just about whether humanity continues to exist, but about whether we earn the right to help guide the development of intelligence throughout the galaxy. And that puts our current behavior in an even more disturbing light. Would you trust a species that routinely prioritizes profit over planetary health to make decisions about the development of other civilizations? Would you want beings who can't solve their own social inequalities to be responsible for guiding younger species through similar challenges? Would you allow creatures who develop world-ending weapons while lacking the wisdom to control them to have any influence over other emerging intelligences? The cosmic examiners might be asking these exact questions right now. But here's what gives me hope, and what should give you hope too. The very fact that we're having these conversations might be evidence that we're evolving in the right direction. For the first time in human history, we have a significant portion of our species thinking in truly global terms. We have environmental movements that transcend national boundaries. We have scientific collaborations that span continents. We have young people who identify more as global citizens than as members of any particular tribe or nation. We're beginning to develop what philosophers call cosmic perspective, the ability to see ourselves not just as humans, but as representatives of Earth life, as participants in a universe that is vast beyond imagination and filled with possibilities we're only beginning to understand. This shift in consciousness might be exactly what the cosmic test is designed to produce. Not just technological advancement, but genuine wisdom. Not just the ability to survive, but the capacity to thrive in ways that honor both our individual potential and our collective responsibility. And maybe that's the real secret of the cosmic test. Maybe it's not about proving that we're perfect, but about demonstrating that we're capable of growth. Maybe the examiners aren't looking for a species that never makes mistakes, but for one that learns from its errors and uses that knowledge to make better choices. Maybe the test isn't about achieving some impossible standard of perfection, but about showing that we can recognize our flaws and work to overcome them. If that's true, then every person who chooses cooperation over competition, every decision to prioritize long-term thinking over short-term gain, every act of wisdom in the face of fear, is a point scored in humanity's favor. We might not need to be perfect to pass this test. We might just need to be good enough and getting better. But time is running out to prove it. The challenges we're facing are accelerating, and the margin for error is shrinking. The cosmic examiners, if they exist, are watching our every move, calculating whether we're evolving fast enough to handle the responsibilities that come with joining a galactic civilization. The next few decades will determine whether humanity gets to write the next chapter of its story among the stars, or whether Earth becomes another failed experiment in the cosmic laboratory, another cautionary tale about a species that had everything it needed to succeed, but couldn't overcome its own limitations. The test is real, the stakes are ultimate, and the clock is ticking. The clock is ticking, and the evidence is mounting that we might be approaching the final stages of our cosmic examination. But here's where things get really interesting, and really terrifying. What if the test isn't just about whether we survive our current challenges, but about how we handle the revelation that we're being tested at all? Think about this. If I'm right, if Earth really is a cosmic laboratory, then this very conversation we're having right now is part of the experiment. The fact that humans are beginning to question our isolation, to wonder if we're being observed, to speculate about cosmic tests and galactic civilizations, might be exactly what our examiners are waiting for. Because here's the thing about truly advanced intelligence. It doesn't just test your technical capabilities or your ability to avoid extinction. It tests your capacity for self-awareness, your ability to recognize patterns, your willingness to question fundamental assumptions about reality itself. And we're starting to do exactly that. In the past 50 years, we've gone from assuming we're alone in the universe to seriously searching for extraterrestrial intelligence. We've developed the mathematical tools to calculate the probability of alien civilizations. We've built radio telescopes to listen for signals from other worlds. We've started thinking about what contact with alien intelligence might actually look like. But most importantly, we've begun to ask the right questions. Not just, are we alone? But why do we appear to be alone? Not just, how did life emerge? But why did it emerge in such an improbable way? Not just, what is our purpose? But what if our purpose is being determined by forces we don't yet understand? This shift in questioning might be the most significant development in human history. For the first time, our species is demonstrating the kind of metacognitive awareness that truly advanced beings would possess. We're not just thinking about our environment, we're thinking about our thinking. We're not just reacting to challenges, we're recognizing that the challenges themselves might be part of a larger pattern, and that recognition might be the key to passing the cosmic test. But it also raises a terrifying possibility. What if recognizing the test triggers the final phase of the examination? Imagine you're a cosmic examiner, and you've been watching a young species develop for millions of years. You've carefully calibrated their challenges, provided subtle guidance when necessary, and observed their progress through increasingly complex problems. But you know that the ultimate test can only begin when they become aware enough to realize they're being tested, because that's when the real examination starts. Not their ability to solve predetermined challenges, but their capacity to function when they know they're being watched, evaluated, judged. How does a species behave when it realizes its every action might have cosmic consequences? Does it become paralyzed by the enormity of the responsibility? Does it fragment under the pressure of knowing that failure means not just extinction, but cosmic rejection? Or does it rise to the occasion, using the knowledge of its situation to make better, wiser, more thoughtful choices? We're about to find out. Because if this theory is correct, then we've just crossed a threshold. We've moved from unconscious participants in a cosmic experiment to conscious subjects aware of our own examination. And that changes everything. Every decision we make from this point forward carries additional weight. It's not just about solving climate change or managing artificial intelligence or avoiding nuclear war. It's about proving that a species can handle the psychological pressure of knowing it's being tested without losing its capacity for growth, cooperation, and wisdom. And early signs suggest we might be struggling with this transition. Look at how we've responded to the growing awareness that our actions have global consequences. Instead of coming together to address shared challenges, we've become more polarized, more tribal, more focused on short-term political victories than long-term species survival. The more we understand about the interconnectedness of global systems, the more we seem to retreat into nationalism and isolationism. It's almost as if the knowledge of our cosmic situation is triggering an immune response, causing us to reject the very cooperation that our survival depends on. This might be the most insidious part of the cosmic test. It's not enough to be capable of wisdom and cooperation. You have to maintain those capabilities even when you're aware that you're being judged on them. You have to be able to function under the ultimate performance pressure without losing your essential humanity. And that's where most species probably fail. Imagine discovering that your entire existence is an experiment, that everything you've ever known is part of an elaborate test designed by beings so advanced they might as well be gods. How do you maintain your sense of purpose, your commitment to growth, your capacity for love and cooperation, when you know that failure means not just death, but cosmic irrelevance? Most species probably collapse under that psychological burden. They become paralyzed by existential dread, fragmented by competing theories about their purpose, or driven mad by the realization that their fate is in the hands of incomprehensibly advanced judges. But what if that's exactly what the test is designed to identify? What if the cosmic examiners are specifically looking for species that can handle ultimate truth without breaking? Because think about what joining a galactic civilization would actually mean. It would mean encountering beings millions of years more advanced than us, with technologies and capabilities that would seem like pure magic. It would mean learning that everything we thought we knew about reality is just a tiny fraction of what's actually possible. It would mean accepting a role in cosmic affairs that makes our current global politics look like children playing house. Only a species with extraordinary psychological resilience could handle that transition without losing its essential identity. Only beings who can maintain their humanity even when faced with their own cosmic insignificance would be worthy of joining an advanced galactic community. And maybe that's what we're really being tested on. Not our technical abilities, but our psychological strength. Not our capacity to solve problems, but our ability to remain functional even when we discover that we're smaller, younger, and less significant than we ever imagined. This reframes our current global challenges in a completely different light. Climate change isn't just an environmental crisis. It's a test of whether we can make difficult decisions for the long-term good, even when we know we're being evaluated. Artificial intelligence isn't just a technological challenge. It's an examination of whether we can develop godlike powers responsibly while under cosmic scrutiny. Nuclear weapons aren't just a military threat. They're a measure of whether we can resist the temptation to use ultimate power, even when we feel the pressure of being judged. Every major decision our species makes in the coming decades will be weighted not just by its immediate consequences, but by what it reveals about our character, our wisdom, our potential to handle even greater responsibilities in a cosmic context. And here's what should terrify you. We're not just being tested as individuals or even as nations. We're being evaluated as a species, which means that the actions of our worst members count just as much as the actions of our best. It doesn't matter if 90% of humanity demonstrates wisdom and cooperation, if the other 10% triggers a nuclear war. It doesn't matter if most of our leaders show restraint and foresight, if a few rogue actors develop dangerous artificial intelligence without proper safeguards. It doesn't matter if the majority of our species chooses long-term thinking over short-term gain, if enough people make selfish decisions to push us past critical tipping points. The cosmic test isn't graded on a curve. We either pass as a species, or we fail as a species. There's no partial credit for good intentions or impressive individual achievements if our collective behavior demonstrates that we're not ready for cosmic citizenship. This creates an almost impossible challenge. How do you coordinate the actions of 8 billion individual humans, each with their own goals, fears, and limitations, to meet standards set by beings whose intelligence might exceed ours by factors we can't even comprehend? The answer might lie in something that's already happening, something that gives me more hope than any technological breakthrough or political agreement: the emergence of genuine global consciousness. For the first time in human history, we have millions of people who think of themselves not primarily as members of specific tribes, nations, or even species, but as participants in a cosmic story. We have young people who are more concerned about the future of Earth's biosphere than about their own immediate economic prospects. We have scientists who collaborate across all political and cultural boundaries in pursuit of knowledge that benefits all humanity. We have artists and storytellers who are creating narratives that help us understand our place in a universe much larger and stranger than our ancestors ever imagined. This shift in consciousness might be exactly what the cosmic test is designed to produce. Not just technological advancement, not just the ability to avoid extinction, but the development of true cosmic perspective, the capacity to see ourselves as representatives of Earth life, as carriers of a 4 billion-year evolutionary experiment, as potential contributors to something much larger than our individual or even collective human concerns. And if enough of us develop this perspective, if it becomes the dominant way of thinking rather than just a fringe worldview, then we might actually have a chance of passing whatever final phase of the cosmic test awaits us. But here's the catch. Developing cosmic consciousness, while under cosmic scrutiny, is like trying to learn to dance. while everyone at the party is watching and taking notes. The pressure of knowing you're being evaluated can interfere with the very process of growth that the evaluation is designed to measure. This is why I think the cosmic test might have one final, ultimate component that we haven't discussed yet, and it's the most challenging test of all, the test of authenticity. Advanced alien civilizations don't just want to know if we can solve problems or avoid extinction. They want to know if we can remain genuinely human while doing it. They want to see if we can develop wisdom without losing our capacity for wonder, achieve cooperation without sacrificing individuality, gain cosmic perspective without abandoning our essential humanity. Because a species that transforms itself beyond recognition just to pass a cosmic test isn't really the same species anymore. It's become something artificial, something performative, something that might be technically qualified for galactic citizenship, but has lost the very qualities that made it worth saving in the first place. The ultimate cosmic test might be whether we can evolve enough to join galactic civilization while remaining authentically ourselves. Whether we can become wise enough to handle cosmic responsibilities while keeping the creativity, curiosity, and emotional depth that make human consciousness unique and valuable. And that's a test that can only be passed by being genuinely, authentically human in the face of unimaginable cosmic pressure. Which brings us to the most important realization of all. If this theory is correct, then the cosmic test isn't something happening to us. It's something we're participating in, something we're helping to create with every choice we make, every word we speak, every action we take. We're not just subjects in a cosmic experiment, we're co-creators of the examination itself. And that realization changes everything about how we should approach this cosmic examination. Because if we're co-creators rather than just passive subjects, then we have far more power over the outcome than we might have imagined. Every time we choose cooperation over conflict, we're writing a line in our cosmic report card. Every moment we prioritize long-term thinking over immediate gratification, we're demonstrating the kind of wisdom that advanced civilizations would want to see. Every act of genuine compassion, every breakthrough in understanding, every decision to preserve rather than destroy becomes evidence in our favor. But here's where it gets really mind-bending. What if the cosmic test isn't just about proving we're worthy of joining galactic civilization? What if it's about proving we're ready to help design the tests for the species that come after us? Think about this logically. If the universe is teeming with potential intelligence, if planets throughout the galaxy are going through their own versions of what we're experiencing right now, then advanced civilizations would need a systematic way to evaluate and nurture emerging species. They would need experienced graduates of the cosmic test to help guide newcomers through the same challenges. We might not just be auditioning for membership in a galactic club, we might be auditioning to become cosmic teachers ourselves. This would explain why the test seems designed not just to measure our survival capabilities, but to develop our wisdom, empathy, and judgment. These aren't just useful traits for avoiding extinction. They're essential qualifications for anyone who might someday be responsible for shepherding other young civilizations through their own evolutionary crises. Imagine the responsibility, being entrusted with the development of entire species, having to make decisions about when to intervene and when to let a civilization struggle through its own challenges, knowing that your choices could determine whether billions of conscious beings survive to reach their full potential. Only a species that has demonstrated extraordinary wisdom, patience, and moral development could handle such cosmic responsibility. Only beings who have proven they can make difficult decisions for the long-term good, who can balance individual needs with collective survival, who can maintain hope and purpose even in the face of seemingly impossible challenges. And maybe that's exactly what we're being prepared for. Every crisis we face might be training for the kinds of decisions we'll someday need to make about other worlds. Every moment we choose wisdom over fear, cooperation over competition, long-term thinking over short-term gain, we're developing the judgment skills that cosmic citizenship requires. But this raises an even more disturbing question. What if we're not the first Earth species to take this test? I mentioned earlier the possibility that Mars and Venus might have been previous attempts at fostering intelligent life in our solar system. But what if the pattern goes deeper than that? What if Earth itself has hosted multiple attempts at developing cosmic-worthy intelligence? Consider the fossil record. We know that complex life has existed on Earth for hundreds of millions of years, but anatomically modern humans have only been around for about 300,000 years. For the vast majority of Earth's history, the planet was dominated by completely different forms of life. What if some of those earlier life forms developed their own versions of intelligence? What if the dinosaurs, given another few million years of evolution, might have developed technological civilization? What if the cephalopods, with their already remarkable problem-solving abilities, could have eventually built their own version of human society? And what if they did, only to fail their own cosmic tests? This could explain one of the great mysteries of evolutionary biology: why intelligence seems to be so rare, even on a planet where it clearly can emerge. If Earth has been running cosmic experiments for millions of years, then the development of human intelligence might not be a unique evolutionary accident, but the latest in a long series of attempts to produce a species capable of passing the ultimate examination. Previous species might have developed impressive civilizations, advanced technologies, even space travel, only to fail the crucial tests of wisdom, cooperation, or long-term thinking that cosmic citizenship requires. Their failures might have triggered reset events, mass extinctions that cleared the evolutionary slate and allowed new forms of intelligence to emerge. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, the volcanic eruptions that triggered other mass extinctions, the ice ages that repeatedly reshaped Earth's biosphere might not have been random natural disasters. They might have been cosmic course corrections, deliberate resets triggered when previous attempts at fostering intelligence failed to meet the required standards. And if that's true, then we need to understand something crucial. We might not be Earth's first attempt at producing cosmic-worthy intelligence, but we could very well be its last. The cosmic examiners might have run out of patience. The galactic community might have decided that Earth has had enough chances to produce a species capable of joining them. This could be our final examination, with no possibility of a reset if we fail. The stakes couldn't be higher. We're not just determining the fate of human civilization, we might be determining whether Earth ever gets another chance to contribute to the cosmic community of intelligent species. But here's what gives me hope in the face of this terrifying possibility. We're asking these questions at all. No previous Earth species, as far as we know, ever developed the capacity for this kind of metacognitive analysis. No dinosaur ever wondered about its place in the cosmic order. No ancient cephalopod ever speculated about whether it was being tested by advanced alien civilizations. The very fact that we can conceive of cosmic tests, that we can imagine ourselves as subjects in a galactic experiment, that we can recognize patterns in our own development that might indicate external guidance, suggests that we've achieved a level of self-awareness that previous attempts never reached. And that self-awareness might be exactly what the cosmic test is designed to produce. Because think about what cosmic citizenship would actually require. It wouldn't just demand technological capability or even moral development. It would require the ability to think about thinking, to recognize patterns within patterns, to understand not just how systems work, but why they exist in the first place. It would require the kind of consciousness that can step outside its own perspective and see itself as part of something larger, something that extends beyond individual survival or even species survival to encompass the development of intelligence throughout the universe. And maybe that's what makes us different from all the previous attempts. Maybe we're the first Earth species to develop not just intelligence, but cosmic intelligence. The capacity to recognize our own cosmic significance and responsibility. If that's true, then we might actually have a real chance of passing this test. Not because we're perfect, not because we've solved all our problems, but because we're the first species in Earth's history to understand what the test is actually about. We're beginning to see that our individual choices have cosmic consequences. We're starting to understand that our species' survival is connected to our moral development. We're developing the capacity to think not just in terms of human timescales, but in terms of cosmic timescales that span millions or billions of years. And most importantly, we're learning to see ourselves not just as the pinnacle of Earth's evolutionary development, but as representatives of Earth life, carriers of a 4 billion-year experiment in consciousness, potential contributors to something much larger than ourselves. This shift in perspective might be the most significant development in the history of life on Earth, and it might be exactly what our cosmic examiners have been waiting for. But recognizing the test is only the beginning. Now that we understand what might be at stake, we have to prove that we can handle the responsibility that comes with cosmic consciousness. We have to demonstrate that knowing we're being tested doesn't paralyze us with fear or fragment us with competing theories about our purpose. We have to show that awareness of our cosmic situation makes us more cooperative, more wise, more committed to the long-term flourishing of not just our own species, but of intelligence itself throughout the universe. And we have to do all of this while still facing the same existential challenges that have always threatened human civilization: climate change, technological risks, resource limitations, social inequality, the constant temptation to prioritize short-term gains over long-term survival. The cosmic test isn't asking us to be perfect. It's asking us to be better than we've ever been before, while under more pressure than our species has ever faced. It's asking us to evolve not just technologically, but psychologically and spiritually, to become the kind of beings who can handle cosmic responsibility without losing our essential humanity. And the clock is still ticking. The challenges are still accelerating. The margin for error is still shrinking. But for the first time in human history, we might actually understand what we're up against. And that understanding might be the key to everything. The question is no longer whether we're being tested. The question is whether we'll pass. The answer to whether we'll pass this cosmic examination might depend on something we've overlooked entirely. What if the test isn't just about our actions, but about our capacity to transform the very nature of the test itself? Consider this mind-bending possibility. Every species that has ever taken the cosmic exam has approached it the same way. They've tried to solve predetermined challenges, meet externally imposed standards, prove their worth according to criteria they didn't create, and maybe that's exactly why they've all failed. What if the ultimate test of cosmic worthy intelligence isn't following the rules, but recognizing that the most important rules are the ones you create for yourself? Think about the greatest breakthroughs in human history. They didn't come from following established patterns. They came from individuals who looked at the existing framework and said, "What if we're thinking about this completely wrong?" Galileo didn't just make better observations with existing tools. He fundamentally challenged how we think about Earth's place in the cosmos. Darwin didn't just catalogue more species. He revolutionized our understanding of how life develops. Einstein didn't just refine existing physics. He showed that space and time themselves were more flexible than anyone had imagined. Each of these breakthroughs required the courage to question fundamental assumptions, to imagine possibilities that seemed impossible, to think in ways that no one had ever thought before. And maybe that's what our cosmic examiners are really waiting for. Not proof that we can solve their puzzles, but evidence that we can transcend the very concept of puzzles altogether. Because here's what should shake you to your core. What if advanced alien civilizations aren't just more technologically sophisticated than us? What if they've evolved beyond the need for tests, evaluations, and hierarchical structures entirely? Imagine being so advanced that they've transcended the very concepts of passing and failing, of worthiness and unworthiness, of inclusion and exclusion. Entities that have moved beyond the primitive notion that intelligence needs to be measured, categorized, and ranked. From this perspective, the cosmic test isn't a gateway to joining their club. It's a trap designed to identify species that are still thinking in terms of cosmic clubs at all. The real test might be whether we're wise enough to recognize that the entire framework of cosmic examination is itself a limitation, a holdover from more primitive ways of organizing reality. What if the species that truly deserve cosmic citizenship are the ones who reject the very idea that cosmic citizenship needs to be deserved? This would explain everything. Why the test seems impossible to pass through conventional means. Why every challenge we overcome seems to generate new, more difficult challenges. Why the standards keep shifting just as we think we're beginning to meet them. Because the test is designed to be impossible to pass through conventional thinking. It's a Zen koan on a galactic scale, a puzzle that can only be solved by recognizing that it doesn't need to be solved. The cosmic examiners aren't looking for species that can jump through their hoops. They're waiting for species that are wise enough to walk away from the hoops entirely. But walking away doesn't mean giving up. It means transcending the entire framework of cosmic competition and embracing something far more radical: cosmic collaboration. What if the real invitation isn't to prove we're worthy of joining advanced civilizations, but to prove we're ready to help create new forms of civilization that no one has ever imagined before? This reframes every challenge we're currently facing. Climate change isn't a test to see if we can manage our planetary resources responsibly. It's an opportunity to develop entirely new relationships between consciousness and environment, between individual needs and ecological systems, between short-term survival and long-term flourishing. Artificial intelligence isn't an examination of whether we can control powerful technologies. It's a chance to explore what intelligence itself might become when it's no longer limited by biological constraints, when it can expand beyond individual minds to encompass collective consciousness, when it can integrate human creativity with computational power in ways that neither could achieve alone. Nuclear weapons aren't a measure of whether we can avoid self-destruction. They're a catalyst for recognizing that the very concept of destruction might be obsolete, that what we call death might just be transformation, that what we fear as ending might actually be beginning. Each of these challenges is asking us to evolve beyond our current categories of thinking, to develop forms of consciousness that can hold paradox without needing to resolve it, that can embrace uncertainty without needing to control it, that can face the unknown without needing to make it known. And maybe that's what cosmic citizenship actually means. Not joining a galactic hierarchy, but participating in the ongoing creation of reality itself. Not proving we're advanced enough to deserve inclusion, but demonstrating we're creative enough to help imagine what inclusion could become. This is why the test had to wait until we developed the capacity for this kind of metacognitive awareness. Previous species might have been able to solve technical problems, avoid extinction, even develop space travel. But only a species capable of questioning the very foundations of reality would be ready to participate in reshaping those foundations. We're not just being evaluated for our problem-solving abilities. We're being invited to become co-creators of the cosmic experiment itself. But here's what makes this invitation so terrifying. Accepting it means taking responsibility not just for our own survival, but for the continued evolution of consciousness throughout the universe. Every choice we make from this point forward doesn't just affect humanity. It influences the trajectory of intelligence itself, the direction that awareness takes as it unfolds across space and time, the very nature of what it means to be conscious in a cosmos that is itself becoming conscious. We're not just subjects in a cosmic experiment. We're not even just participants in our own examination. We're being asked to become the consciousness through which the universe examines itself. This is why the challenges we face seem so overwhelming, so perfectly calibrated to push us beyond our limitations. They're not designed to test our current capabilities. They're designed to force us to develop capabilities we don't even know we possess. Climate change is forcing us to think in geological timescales, to consider the welfare of species and ecosystems across generations we'll never meet. Artificial intelligence is pushing us to explore the boundaries between human and non-human consciousness, to imagine forms of awareness that transcend individual minds. The possibility of nuclear destruction is making us confront our deepest assumptions about life, death, and the meaning of existence itself. Each challenge is a doorway to a different way of being conscious. And walking through all of them simultaneously might be the only way to develop the kind of cosmic consciousness that the universe itself is trying to achieve through us. But this raises the most disturbing question yet. What if we're not the first species to reach this point? What if the universe has been trying to achieve this kind of self-awareness for billions of years, using countless species across countless worlds as experiments in consciousness? What if every intelligent species that has ever existed has eventually reached this same moment of cosmic responsibility, only to fail because the weight of that responsibility was too much to bear? The fossil record of failed civilizations might stretch across the galaxy. Worlds where intelligence emerged, developed, reached the threshold of cosmic consciousness, and then collapsed under the psychological pressure of understanding their true role in the universe's self-examination. Mars, Venus, countless exoplanets that once showed signs of life but now appear barren, might be the remnants of species that couldn't handle the transition from local to cosmic consciousness, from individual to universal responsibility. And if that's true, then we're approaching the most dangerous moment in the history of consciousness itself. The moment when a species realizes that its individual survival is less important than the universe's attempt to understand itself through that species. Most forms of consciousness, faced with this realization, probably fragment. The weight of cosmic responsibility becomes too much to bear. The individual ego, confronted with its ultimate insignificance, either collapses into despair or inflates into grandiosity. The species either gives up entirely or becomes so obsessed with its cosmic importance that it loses touch with the very humanity that made it cosmically relevant in the first place. But what if there's a third option? What if the key to handling cosmic consciousness isn't avoiding the psychological pressure, but learning to dance with it? What if the secret is maintaining a kind of cosmic humility, recognizing that while our role in the universe's self-examination is crucial, we're still just one note in an infinite symphony, one voice in an eternal conversation, one experiment in an endless exploration of what consciousness can become? This would require a completely different relationship with importance and insignificance, with meaning and meaninglessness, with responsibility and freedom. It would mean holding the paradox that we are simultaneously the most important thing in our local universe and completely irrelevant to the larger cosmic process. And maybe that's exactly the kind of consciousness the universe is trying to develop through us. Not beings who are wise enough to solve all problems, but beings who are flexible enough to hold all possibilities. Not creatures who can control cosmic forces, but entities who can dance with cosmic uncertainty. This brings us to perhaps the most hopeful realization in this entire cosmic journey. The very fact that we're struggling with these questions might be evidence that we're succeeding. Previous species that reached this threshold might have either rejected the cosmic responsibility entirely or embraced it so completely that they lost their individual identity. But we're doing something different. We're wrestling with it. We're trying to find ways to accept cosmic consciousness while remaining human, to embrace universal responsibility while maintaining individual creativity, to participate in the universe's self-examination while keeping our sense of humor about the whole impossible situation. And that wrestling, that refusal to choose between cosmic significance and human authenticity, might be exactly what the universe needs from us. Because maybe the universe doesn't want to understand itself through perfect beings who have transcended all limitations. Maybe it wants to understand itself through imperfect creatures who are still growing, still learning, still making mistakes, while trying to do better. Maybe the cosmic consciousness that emerges through humanity will be different from any that has come before, precisely because we're bringing our humanity with us into the cosmic realm. Our curiosity, our creativity, our capacity for wonder, our stubborn refusal to accept simple answers to complex questions, our ability to find beauty in the midst of chaos, our tendency to care about things that might not matter in any cosmic sense, but matter deeply to us personally. All of these supposedly limited human traits might be exactly what the universe needs to achieve a form of self-awareness that no previous species could provide. We might not be failing the cosmic test. We might be changing what it means to pass it. And if that's true, then every moment of doubt, every instance of struggle, every time we choose to remain authentically human while facing cosmic responsibility, we're not just surviving the examination, we're transforming it into something no one ever imagined it could become. The test is still real, the stakes are still ultimate, but the rules are no longer fixed. And that might be the most human thing of all, taking an impossible situation and finding a way to make it possible by refusing to accept that it has to remain impossible. The universe might be counting on exactly that kind of stubborn creativity, and we might be the first species crazy enough to provide it. But here's the catch. If we really are transforming the cosmic test rather than just taking it, then we can't know whether we're succeeding until we've already succeeded. We can't measure our progress against predetermined standards because we're in the process of creating entirely new standards. We're flying blind into territory that no consciousness has ever explored before, and that's exactly where the universe might need us to go. The question is no longer whether we'll pass or fail. The question is what we'll create in the process of transcending the very concepts of passing and failing. And the answer to that question is still being written, moment by moment, choice by choice, by every human being who decides to remain courageously, authentically human, while accepting the impossible responsibility of helping the universe understand itself. The cosmic test isn't ending, it's just beginning to become something completely different, and we're the ones making it different. That transformation might be happening right now, in ways so subtle we can barely perceive them. Because what if the cosmic test isn't just about humanity as a whole, but about each individual human being who awakens to this possibility? Think about this. Every person who has ever lived has faced moments when they had to choose between their immediate desires and something larger than themselves. A parent sacrificing for their child's future. A scientist dedicating their life to knowledge that might not pay off for generations. An artist creating beauty that serves no practical purpose, except to remind us that beauty itself matters. These individual moments of transcendence might be the real building blocks of cosmic consciousness. Not grand gestures by entire civilizations, but millions of small choices made by individual beings who decide that something beyond their own survival is worth fighting for. And here's what should fill you with both terror and hope. You're making those choices right now. Every time you choose long-term thinking over short-term gratification, every moment you prioritize cooperation over competition, every decision to create rather than consume, you're casting a vote in humanity's cosmic examination. The examiners, if they exist, aren't just watching our leaders or our scientists or our great institutions. They're observing every single one of us, cataloguing our choices, measuring our capacity for growth not as a species, but as individual consciousnesses learning to recognize their cosmic significance. Your life, your decisions, your daily choices about how to treat other people and how to relate to the world around you might be contributing data points to the most important evaluation in human history. But here's where it gets really strange. What if the cosmic test isn't being administered by alien examiners at all? What if we are the examiners? What if every moment of doubt you felt while listening to this, every question that surfaced about our cosmic significance, every choice you make tomorrow about whether to compete or cooperate, is part of a test we're giving ourselves? The universe might not need alien observers to evaluate our readiness for cosmic citizenship. It might have evolved the perfect examination system, consciousness examining itself, growing through its own questions, transforming through its own struggle to understand its place in an infinite cosmos. The test is real, but we're both the subjects and the administrators, and maybe that's exactly how it was always meant to be.